Every Thursday. Malcolm, good morning, mate.
Good morning, Marcus. How are you?
Well, thank you. Are you? Where are you, in Canberra at the moment?
In Canberra, and it's a beautiful day. But everyone down here is saying how cold it is for summer.
How cold it is for summer?
Yeah, it's about 15 degrees right now, and the Comcar driver was saying it's bloody cold.
It's cold. Well, I guess Comcar drivers would know.
Well, they've lived here most of their lives, some of them, mate.
Comcars. What are you getting around in these days? You're not in the Beamers, are you? Are they still driving Commodores, Comcar drivers?
Mate, you know the one I like? It's the glorified Commodore. What do they call it? The Caprice.
Oh, right.
That is fabulous. But mostly it's Camry.
Okay.
And sometimes, we jag the BMW. But you know what? I still like the Holden. It's easily the best.
All right.
I'm serious.
No, well, absolutely. I don't mind Holden either. Of course. I just wish we made them here.
Exactly.
All right, let's have a look here. You say the Ice Age is coming to the Northern Hemisphere, or you don't say it is. What's this about?
Well, there's talk of a solar minimum and the temperatures plummeting below normal.
Right.
And that looks to be what's happening. And apparently in China they had crop failures, and Germany they've had the coldest weather in a decade, and solar panels blanketed in snow and ice, 30,000 wind turbines idle, and they get a significant percentage of their electricity from solar and wind.
Of course.
They're now building a coal-fired power station. They've opened one. Texas, which has got a huge amount of gas, oil, it's got brown coal. They can get cheap black coal from Wyoming, trucked down very, very cheaply by rail. And they've got these subsidies for wind, and they've now got a hell of a lot of wind power going on there, and they've been blacked out for days on end, some people. You know, people living in their houses, in Texas of all places, with condensation that's frozen on their walls. You know, just insane. So it's crazy what's going on. How can we possibly say that climate change is a problem and therefore the weather is going to be a problem? We've got all these extremes, and then go crazy and make our power system dependent on weather. Just insane.
Well, I've heard some discussion in the last 24 hours about nuclear, Malcolm. Nuclear energy. Apparently, it's so much safer. We don't need to build these new reactors next to oceans anymore, and we've got plenty of land in the country to get rid of the nuclear waste, etc., which isn't as bad as what it's been in previous decades. I mean, what's your stance on nuclear power as a part of the mix?
Yeah, nuclear power, Pauline and I are both open to the discussion of that. We need to open that discussion up. The cheapest form of power, by far, is hydroelectricity, where you can do it. And we should be tapping into that resource, and One Nation's policy is to do exactly that up north. Then the second cheapest is coal, by a long, long way. And then the third cheapest is nuclear. And in the vast distance is solar and wind. They're actually parasites on nuclear, coal, and hydro. But
parasites?
Yes,
parasites?
Yeah, because they require subsidies. And Warren Buffett, who's the world's most successful investor ever, he said that wind solar turbines are useless, but when you subsidise them from the government, they're a wonderful investment. So coming back to your question, South Australia has got abundant nuclear sources of uranium, and it would be ideal for South Australia. But we need to do it for the right reasons, for power reliability and for power cheapness. As I said, the cheapest is hydro, the second cheapest is coal. We need to stick with them. That's our competitive advantage. Hell, we export more energy in the form of gas and coal than any other nation in the world.
Yeah.
And we have the highest gas prices domestically, and we can't use our own coal. So we're subsidizing the trashing of our jobs, exporting of our jobs to places like China and Asia, who use our coal and generate electricity and sell it to their businesses for 8 cents a kilowatt hour. We do it for triple that, not because we're inefficient, but because the government has put all this rubbish on it. So we've got to start thinking about putting Australia first.
When you put it like that, what is a private member's legislation bill all about?
Well, people know that the government is in power in the lower house, and the Senate becomes a house of review.
That's right.
So most of the legislation comes into the Senate after being passed from the lower house. occasionally, and we've done it ourselves, we've raised bills, as you know, the anti-bail-in bill that I introduced earlier this year.
Yeah.
Late last year. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it's a private senator, Senator O'Neill,
right.
was introduced a bill to... So it's not a party-sponsored bill. She's in the Labor Party, but it's a private senator's bill.
Right.
And that's dealt with and voted on. And if it succeeds, then it goes down to the lower house where the lower house vote on it.
What's the bill about?
This is about franchisees getting some power back from powerful franchisors. You know, General Motors left this country. Sadly, as you said, we don't manufacture cars anymore.
Yeah.
But General Motors left, and they just tossed their dealer network aside. And these dealers have established businesses. They employ hundreds of people, thousands of people across the country.
Yeah.
And they're very important for local communities, especially in places like Western and Northern New South Wales and right across rural Queensland. And they just tossed them aside. So what Deb O'Neill's bill did was it brought in place hefty fines, up to $10 million for franchisors that neglect or use their power capriciously, and it also brought in compulsory arbitration if they can't settle them. And so we won't have something like Holden dealers being abused as they were.
All right. Sounds okay to me. Craig Kelly, what do you make of it? You're calling it an honourable resignation. He wants to be free to do some work. He bases all of his comments on data and facts. You think that this is a solid bloke?
Very, mate. I've had lots of interactions with Craig on several issues. He is passionate about our country. If he says something, it's correct. That's my experience with him 100% over a few years now. He's he's a nice bloke, but that's not the key to it. The key is that he's a strong man, he's got courage and integrity, and he'll continue pushing an issue so long as he's got the facts and the data to back it up. He's quite often worked with me on various issues around the Parliament, and that's just like Deb O'Neill. Deb O'Neill, she's from the Labor Party.
Yeah.
Craig was from the Liberal. We'll work with anyone so long as they're decent people, honest, and they're working for the country. And Labor's got to remember.
Sounds like you're courting him for One Nation. Is that something that could happen? I know but you better be careful. You might need to get in a line because Barnaby Joyce is also circling the Kelly Wagon.
That's what I said when the media asked me about Craig's resignation from the Liberal Party. I just said, I think Barnaby Joyce will be very, very happy with this because they'll be courting him so that he can knock off Michael McCormack as leader because he's not showing much spine in the Nationals. They've just become sycophants for the Liberal Party. But like I said, we'll work with anyone. And
all right, well, but you didn't answer my question. Are you courting Craig Kelly for One Nation?
No, I'm not. We have many things in common. We have many of the same beliefs, but we are not courting him. We had no negotiations from me or Pauline with Craig.
All right, mate, Anzac Day. There's been a bit of a win up there in Queensland. Steve Andrew, One Nation member for Morani, put up a petition to restore Anzac Day services. Yes.
And we've had a win, all right. We've got the Anzac Day services restored, and they'll be as they should be. So it's very, very important. So we missed last year for the only time ever, I believe, wasn't it, Marcus?
Pretty much. I mean, look, it was still commemorated, and I know how important it is for the marches, and I know how important it is to get out to, your local community hub to commemorate Anzac Day. But I thought last year was actually still, even though it wasn't because of COVID-19, I thought it was still very special. It was nice seeing all the photographs of people who were...
I agree with you, mate. Anzac Day when I was a kid was not that big. It was literally for veterans. But these days, my kids were very keen to attend. It is a special day. It's becoming more and more Australia's day. So it really is quite remarkable what Anzac Day has become. It's lovely.
Absolutely. Just finally, you've booted the boot reforms, the better overall off test. Tell me about this.
Yes, the boot test, the Better Off Overall test, is a test where any new enterprise agreement that comes before the Fair Work Commission must be compared with the award and make sure that it is either better or equal to the award.
Yeah.
And the government, it's part of its new industrial relations package legislation, wanted to modify the boot, and we said no way. And the government has listened to our argument, and they've said, okay, they've taken the boot out of the boot modifications and weakening out of the proposed legislation.
Yeah.
We're still concerned very much with the approach on casuals. it's not, the bill as it stands now is not worthy of being passed by us, but we are willing to work with the government because there are areas of the bill that are decent and small businesses in particular and employees need. Workers need these. So we're going to work with the government as we do with the Labor Party and anyone in Parliament to come up with something that actually works.
All right, good to have you on the program as always, Malcolm. Have a good week and we'll catch up again next Thursday.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day, Marcus.
All right, you too. There he is, One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts.